Tensura What If? Silver Timeline by CBCTEBAS Chapter 52 Arcana. The two started to glow and feel dizzy, their bodies slightly wobbling trying to remain standing. Unconsciously, they felt like they had to remain standing, that if they drop down and fall unconscious they'll lose something important. Thus, they remained standing for the entire evolution process. Unknown to them, Rimuru and the two primordial were noticing their resolve and were satisfied with their perseverance to remain awake and standing. After a few minutes, the two are fully evolved to their new races. They kneeled to Rimuru. Rimuru-sama, I have successfully evolved into the Fire Jin race. Inki or the now Agni announced with obvious glee in his voice. Fire Jin, the next evolutionary step for Agni. In terms of ranking he should be in S rank, a rank higher than the demon peer. My lord, Runa formerly Siren spoke. I have evolved in a Water Jin race. I will use this powers to improve myself even more. The next evolutionary step of Sirens. Making her another S rank individual. Rimuru nodded, he liked the evolution that they went through. Even if they don't defeat those two spirits, they should be able to harm them in a serious fight. Which would be enough to fulfill the requirements of the test. Making them fit vessels for the Great Spirit's powers to be passed down to. Kufufufu Jin, a formerly unknown race. I have heard legends about them in Orient, the spirits that are demigods of their pantheon. Oh my, a demigod spirit is it? Testarossa sounded intrigued. Even she didn't know about that race before, and for it to be proclaimed as a demigod. Fufufu, they should be stronger than before then. Kufufufu, yes. In fact, I'll have a hard time defeating Agni this time. Diablo stated matter-of-factly. Doesn't that mean you can still defeat Mayhem? Thought the two Dijins as they listened to the two demon peers talk. They continued to talk until the two true dragons returned. Hey, you guys done? Velgrind waved, looking at them. She sensed the new powers from the two Dijins and concluded that everything's done. Well, more or less yes. Rimuru shrugged. Are you sure you won't be teaching Agni anymore? He'll need your support now more than ever after all. Rimuru meant the statement that Velgrind said, that she would only train Agni for 500 years and she'll leave him to himself for the rest. It would be unfair for Agni, as he would train alone while Runa continues to be trained by Velzard. Velgrind thought for a bit, she walked towards Rimuru and got to his ear to whisper. I'll do it on one condition. Velgrind whispered the deal in exchange for supporting Agni for the rest of his time training. She stepped backwards after saying all that she wanted, blushing heavily, waiting for Rimuru's response. Oh, well. Rimuru grabbed Velgrind's arm and pulled her in a hug with one arm. Leaned in to whisper this time to her ear. I'll make sure that it'll be a very satisfying experience for you. Rimuru stepped back and laughed as Velgrind was a blushing mess as she ran towards Velzard. Fufufu, it seems things are better than I thought. Velzard walked towards Rimuru with Rain. I don't know what you mean, Rimuru feigned ignorance, he then turned to Rain. Thanks for the help, Rain-tan. I can't believe Runa could make weather-type attacks like that. Ha ha ha. Actually I didn't teach her that. Rain laughed bitterly while she scratched her cheek. Rimuru turned to Velzard, who shook her head showing that she didn't teach her either. Was it self-taught then? Rimuru looked at Runa. Actually it was self-taught, Rimuru-sama, however I did have a reference for it. Runa explained. Have you heard of the new True Dragon, Rimuru-sama? True Dragon? New? There's a new one? Rimuru turned to the two with him right now. Oh, you must mean Veldora, Velgrind said as she recalls the name of the newly born little brother. Yes, he is the Storm Dragon after all. It makes sense, that's where you got your inspiration from. Velzard nodded her head at Runa. Where is he now? I want to meet him. Rimuru exclaimed, excited to see a new true dragon. Maybe I could test my strength at this new one. The other true dragon are still a tiny bit unreasonable for me. Actually. Velzard turned away as she heard Rimuru's words. Rimuru was confused by this gesture. Did he say anything wrong? Is something the matter? He's currently dead. Velgrind sighed as she looks at Velard with tired eyes. Dead? Rimuru shouted, shock. Did Guy kill him? I doubt there's anyone here that can kill a true dragon except for someone on the level of Guy. Heck, even Guy doing it is impressive in itself. A fellow true dragon can. Rain answered. It was. No one, I'm just kidding here, ha ha ha. Rain felt her body froze for half a second under the gaze of Velzard. Even with her natural affinity for water and ice, she couldn't resist the true dragon's menacing aura. It should be obvious with that. Velgrind gestured, pointing at Velzard, who was glaring at the shrinking Rain. I see, Rimuru nodded. I won't ask any more. After that interaction, he returned to Citadel to continue his ever-growing work. Lord Rimuru, we bring some unfortunate news. It seems, the soul fragment that we have located that belongs to my lord is being stolen from different universes. Apollyon explained as he placed 5 different folders on Rimuru's desk. We have had 5 cases of Lord Rimuru's fragments, and they have all been stolen before we could retrieve them. Is it because we were too late? Did they get away because they were actively hunting them? Rimuru questioned as he tried to think of any reason as to why would they steal his soul fragments. We have not yet gotten any potential lead as to why. We do hypothesize that they do indeed actively hunt for these specific souls. Rimuru sighed and leaned on his chair. He's in deep thought with this current dilemma. Is this why Citadel hasn't found any fragments for the last couple of 100 years? Rimuru grabbed one of the folders and began reading through them. Are there only 5 incidents so far? With evidence, we currently have 5. Apollyon paused for a bit before continuing. Itzriel believes that the other incidents where some subordinates are eliminated to be connected here as well. Explain. The 5 sightings only happen as they were in a group. The culprit seems to be capable of eliminating A+ individuals with ease. We believe that the only reason is there are so few incidences because the other times, they were all killed before they could report for the fragment and the culprit. Rimuru finished Apollyon's statement as he finally realized. Yes, however it is hard to segregate the deaths of subordinates from other miscellaneous events from the fragment incidents. For now create a force that focuses on finding this culprit. Make sure that they are competent to at least survive and report back. Understood. Apollyon bowed and walked out Rimuru's office. Rimuru continued his paperwork before recalling Agy and Runa's return. Now that Agy and Runa will be returning soon, I should create a new system and positions. But that would mean adding more people. But more is good, especially with this type of work. Rimuru thought with his eyes closed while tapping his pen on the table. Kufufufu, if Rimuru-sama wants, I could propose some of my subordinates of the East. Diablo poured Rimuru some newly brought coffee. Coffee was introduced after some time a few centuries ago. Rimuru does not have any preference between tea and coffee, thus he mostly alternates between the two depending on his mood. I don't know about that. Well, I mean the new jobs are still under your domains, so I guess it's fine? Rimuru contemplates. What type of jobs are these, Rimuru-sama? Diablo asked, formulating suggestions depending on Rimuru's overall plan. Rimuru took a piece of paper and drew a graph. It's something like this. Rimuru finished and gave the paper to Diablo, who read it. Me, Rimuru, Cardinal Directions, Primordial Demons. New jobs, survey analysis, support guard. I'll place Agy to guard and Runa to support, but anyway, this is what I had in mind. Rimuru started to explain his new plan to creating a organized workforce. These new jobs will be spread across the multiverse, with you 4 above them to order them around. Of course, Agy and Runa won't be under you but under directly to me. I'll have at least 1 of each type for each of you cardinal direction, so 4 subordinates that hold titles. Diablo thought for a minute for the functionality of the new system and positions. Kufufufu, as expected of Rimuru-sama. Diablo praised as he returned the paper to Rimuru. I for one believe this to be a wonderful idea. Am I to assume that the one with titles are the leaders and they have their own group under them similar to Agy and Runa? That is right, these new jobs will be the leaders of the group for each type. Example would be Agy leading a team specifically made to function as guards or Runa leading the support. Rimuru brainstormed some more with Diablo before ordering him to bring the rest of the primordial to pitch in the topic. And for the rest of the day, all 5 primordials sat in one room discussing how will the system work, its effect, and how to make it as efficient as possible. Good, so with this here. Rimuru patted the stack of paper that was used to write down suggestions and furnish the system some more. I'll have you guys bring some potential leaders to be given a position in this. Is something wrong, Rimuru-sama? Ultima asked as she leaned from the table. Nothing. I just thought it's weird to keep calling it the new system, or new positions. So in a similar manner that you four are called the cardinal directions. I'll give this a name of its own. It will be called from now on the Arcana. Thus the new positions in the Citadel was born, high-ranked individuals given the sacred positions of working at Citadel. From different universes, the four primordials will search for competent individuals to work for them and become worthy to be part of the Arcana. The highest position any person can only dream of obtaining, being able to not only work for their lords the CDs, cardinal directions, but the one thought of only a myth by many and only known to be true by a few. The one above their lords, the one whom many worship as a god. The one that watches over everyone as their overseer. The one that can order the CDs on a whim. The one that has the power to destroy any universe if he so ever want for his own pleasure. The one to whom they placed their undying loyalty and overflowing faith to. The one that only someone that works for him may utter his name. The god, overseer, Rimuru of the Silver Faith. The four primordials have started their hunt for worthy subordinates to work for Rimuru. They each have their own way of searching, of course. Ultima in a certain empire. You called Ultima Sama? A woman in her late teens walked to the middle of the throne room. She then kneeled on one knee, keeping sufficient distance to the person in question. She had light blue hair and blue eyes, and is relatively tall height. With porcelain white skin, she wore a military outfit for a general. Yes, Ultima, the purple primordial, could be seen lazily seating in what was the throne of the previous ruler. How have you been, S-chan? Ultima stood from her seat and walked towards the person kneeling below her. How is your hobby going? I am quite well, replied the female. My hobby continues to keep me from boredom, especially with addition of new toys yesterday. Ha ha ha, that's good to hear. Ultima laughed as she stood in front of her. Follow me. She walked towards a different room, one which only the two of them are present. Ultima snapped her fingers to create a sound barrier to make sure no eavesdroppers could hear their conversation. Well, let's start this over. Ultima sat down. S-chan, do you have any interest in coming with me? With you? She repeated the question asked towards her as she sat down. Do you mean outside this world? To where you came from? Well, something like that, but more like instead of acquiring toys here. Ultima smiled evilly. You can fight stronger and acquire stronger toys for your hobby. I bet you're bored here. After all, you are the strongest in this world. Oh, General Esdeath-chan. Esdeath thought for a second before looking at Ultima. Can I ask first why the sudden invitation? She wanted to gather information first before deciding. Although, in her mind she has already decided. Well, Rimuru-sama has asked us to select some strong individual to give some work that can be sent across the multiverse. Something like several squadron that can be ordered to go to different universes. Ultima explained. Esdeath faked cough once she saw Ultima glared at her. Do you mean Lord Silver? The Silver God? The overseer of the multiverse? Esdeath knew of Rimuru. No one in the world does not know of him. Although he is more known as simply the Silver God or the Overseer God of the multiverse. The one that ordered Ultima to come down and saved this world from its endless fighting. Esdeath only knew of his actual name because she was favored by Ultima, as the two have similar hobbies. I would be honored to accept the position. Esdeath gestures with a bow. However, am I really that strong for your standards? Some of those subordinates of yours could defeat me, you know. Esdeath placed her right hand to her hip as she asked Ultima. Ah, that. Ultima stood from her seat. She walked towards Esdeath. Esdeath looked at her confused. She did not dare speak and simply followed Ultima with her eyes. Ultima placed her hand towards Esdeath. A purple magic circle appeared with several demonic symbols. Then the magic circle disappeared. Esdeath checked herself and found nothing different. This should do it for you, S-chan. Ultima smiled and then Esdeath's head blew up. Esdeath's body fell to the ground with everything above the neck gone, the walls and floor covered in blood from the sudden rupture. With her body still slightly convulsing from the sudden event. Then a magic circle appeared in the floor beside the corpse. From that circle came Esdeath, who was in a state of shock from what just happened. Her expression in a daze, still processing what happened. Once she noticed her dead body beside her, she awoke from her daze. Am I dead? Esdeath looked at her hands, closing and opening them to get a feel. Yeah, you died. Ultima simply stated as she took out a homunculus and started to prepare it, ignoring Esdeath. Here, catch. Ultima threw the orb to her. This is. Esdeath asked, showing the orb in her hand. Imagine going inside it. Ultima pointed at the orb. Esdeath looked confused but followed her order. Soon she was sucked in the orb. Ultima took it and placed it in. The homunculus started to take the form of Esdeath, and once it was complete she opened her eyes. How does it feel to be a demon? Ultima asked as she stared at Esdeath. Demon? I see. Is that what you did? Esdeath finally understood what Ultima did. Killing and resurrecting her as a demon. Why would she do that? To make her more powerful than before. How? That she does not know just yet. As expected, you accepted it quite fast. Ultima clapped. She twirled her index finger and the blood and the human corpse of Esdeath disappeared. With this, you should be able to boost your strength and acquire much more powerful abilities. Especially since, you're now connected to the system of the cardinal world. System? I don't understand. I'm too tired for this. I'll play with my toys later to relieve this exhaustion. Confirmed. Unique skill. Sadistic one, acquired. Carrera was not amused. She leaned in the arm of the throne set for her. This was the 7th world that she has been while searching for the fitting contender for the position. She has summoned all the powerful beings in each world to a tournament and see anyone fit to be a contender. And yet, weak, she uttered as she saw another one of the participants die. And here I was planning to be considerate and even train them if they had potential. Carrera massaged her temple. What should she do? Worst case scenario, she would not have anyone to present. She does know of a few that fit the criteria, however she doesn't want it to be that simple. She wants someone that is stronger, someone that is more powerful, someone with high potential even without her help. Then she suddenly sensed something, a gate appearing several kilometers from where she was. That should stave some of my boredom. She stood up, ignoring the stares of the participants and audience, and flew towards the gate. From the gate walked out a small group of lions. They were all red in color, and not only that, they were brimming with strength. Suddenly a person appeared behind them. Turning around, all they found was the gate they passed through to be gone. And the girl standing there had a key in her hand. Carrera was in a good mood. The pride of lions were strong, unnaturally strong for others even. One of them could easily slaughter the rest of the participants from earlier. And the one leading them is 5 times better. All right, Carrera raised her right fist. From now on you're all my pets. The pride was confused. They understood her words and yet couldn't comprehend what was happening and what the girl was talking about. The leader of the pride stepped forward and roared in defiance, proclaiming to Carrera that they will not obey. The rest of the pride followed and roared as well. The ground shook and the wind pressure was heavy, and all of it was directed at the yellow primordial. Ha ha ha. You're better than I expected. Carrera smiled joyfully, like a child happy from meeting a new pet to play with. Though for now let's teach you some discipline. Carrera released a small part of her demon lord's aura. Demon peer Diablo had this, so they all have them here. The pride fell one after the other, only the leader remained, struggling but still standing. I like your guts, I'll give you one last chance though. Carrera created a magic circle just below the pride of lions. Obey me or die right here. Carrera's face was serious, the smile was no more, and her eyes were that of a heartless monster. The lion struggled for a moment and in the end bowed its head, surrendering to Carrera altogether. After the others have awoken, Carrera gave them a drug that she got from Jahil. This should be more convenient. Soon the lions began to start morphing in shape, their bodies turning bipedal and their furs turning to smooth skin. The only thing that remained was the red hair that now functions as their hair, previously being their mane and fur. The previously red lions are now naked, confused humans. This, Appin, what? The leader, now having the appearance of a male in his early 20s with long red hair, questioned. Turning you to human. Well, actually it's a drug that gives you the ability to morph between your original appearance and a human version. Carrera revealed to the confused leader. Do you have a name? Carrera reached out her hand to help the leader stand. The leader accepted the hand and stood up, his height being 1 head taller than her. The leader placed his hand to his chest. Name, Abbas. Testarossa walked through the forest, observing as she followed the mana that she sensed. Soon she was stopped by a woman. She was slightly translucent and hovering from the ground. Her face is that of a beauty that men simply can't resist. What is thy purpose hither? The woman spoke with a sweet and calm voice. I'm looking for the origin of the magic. Well, you won't understand that. Mana. I'm looking for the person who had strong mana that I sensed in this forest. And what didst thou resolve to try if thou find him? I'll have them work for me. Testarossa gestured as she placed her hand to her hip. The woman was wide-eyed for a bit, then, I be sorry. I canst not let thou do that. The woman spoke as the tree branches started to launch themselves toward Testarossa. She could also see the woman manifesting a golden sword. Testarossa sighed. She wanted to do this peacefully if possible. Not that she wanted to be nice, but to finish the objective as fast as possible. Testarossa burned the branches that jumped at her, burning the tree that they came to as well. The woman was shocked at the fast development, especially seeing the trees she liked burned to cinders. She jumped towards Testarossa with the sword in hand. I despise thou. Of course you do. Testarossa fired a magic bullet to the head of the woman. She died. Her once hovering body finally dropped to the ground, with the golden sword left on her open palm. If you had just let me through. Testarossa continued to walk past the corpse of what was Rimuru, the Lady of the Lake. Then Testarossa arrived at a certain tree that has a closed-off cave in its roots. Oh my, this is made better than I would expect. Testarossa noticed the seal on the tree. She complimented its complexity, however. Testarossa raised her right hand in front of her and then up. The ground started to shake as the tree was raised to the sky, roots and all. Beneath it was an old man, someone you'd expect to simply rest in their house awaiting their soon death. The old man looked at Testarossa, with eyes that were both surprised and captivated by the spectacle in front of him. Goddess, the old man muttered to himself. I'll say this now, I'm no goddess. Quite the opposite, I am a demon. Testarossa corrected him as she threw the tree several meters away. I've come to recruit you. You do not need to reply as it's already been decided. The old man, Merlin, was both dumbstruck and love-struck by the selfish declaration of the white-haired beauty in front of him. That all he could do was nod his head with her words. Working for a woman like her, demon or goddess makes no difference, I'll do it. I, Merlin, am your loyal servant, my lady. And with those words the two left the world, and in the vast forest where the corpse of Rimuru lies, a person, wearing a cloak could be seen. The entire body covered that its gender could not be identified. An arm from under the cloak grabbed the golden sword on the ground. Raising it to eye level, analyzing its quality, the individual took it with them and walked further into the forest. Approaching a lake, planning to find a certain item that pairs with the sword. Diablo, boy. Do you still want to continue? An old woman sat in the middle of the forest. She was caressing a small fox, playing with the living organisms that dwell in the planet. Kufufufu, of course, if you don't mind. Diablo appeared behind the woman. The fox was alarmed and ran away from the old woman's lap. She sighed and stood up, and from the ground grew a tree just enough to reach a head higher than the old woman before it turned into a staff. Very well, come at me, boy. The old woman and Diablo transported themselves into a different, more dead planet. The two fought there for hours on end, with the upper hand being the old woman. Kufufufu, as expected of you. Diablo spoke, bruised up by the fight. The old woman looked at him somewhat annoyed. You've grown stronger. The old woman spoke as she grew her missing limb. When they first met, Diablo could barely scratch her. And yet, now her taking damages is a normal occurrence. Kufufufu, of course. Well then, for the finale, despair time, Diablo brought the old woman to his world, the world of temptation. How many times do I say, this one does not work on me? The old woman sighed as from the darkness, ground suddenly appeared beneath her feet. And from that ground, different types of flora appeared one after the other. Kufufufu, well then, continue to escape from this then. Diablo snapped his fingers and the world began to crumble. End of the world. The old woman simply closed her eyes and released her aura with her will. The entire world shattered almost instantly, returning the both of them to where they were before. Thank you again for sparing with me. Diablo gestures as they returned to the forest where the old woman sat in the stone where she originally was. Yeah. If nothing else, leave now, boy. The old woman shooed Diablo as she tried to relax her mind. She noticed that Diablo still hasn't left. Is there something else, boy? Kufufufu, I have a proposition for you, if you would. I refuse, now leave. She didn't want to hear any of it, especially if it came from the mouth of that demon. Now. I could make you more powerful and fix some of your children. Diablo pretended to sigh and turned around. But if you insist, then I will not go further. See you again next time. As Diablo started to walk and activating transport magic. Wait, Diablo had a smile that would struck fear to anyone that saw it, though the other primordials would simply sneer that he was plotting. Yes. You're not lying to me, are you? The old woman glared at Diablo, pressuring him with her aura. About what? About my power and my children. I wonder, Diablo gestured, pretending to think. It depends, will you listen to my proposition? The old woman thought, there was no harm if she will only listen. But she knows, the moment she does, Diablo would somehow manage to convince her. I'm going to regret this, aren't I? The old woman whispered to herself. I'll listen, boy, so speak. Excellent, I would like for you to join me in working under Rimuru-sama. Diablo spread his arms in a flamboyant gesture, showing his excitement and speaking about his lord. Me? Working under someone? The old woman smiled mockingly. She knew how strong she was. And unless it's from her own kind, she is confident in defeating anyone. Yes, I would like for the great spirit vessel of earth, Terra, to work for Rimuru-sama as one of his arcana.